Good morning, everybody. My guest today is George Martin, Carnism Debunked. Say hi, George.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the stream.
So we were talking about the thumbnail, what we were going to call this. And I said, how about, why does everyone hate George? And I was just like a joke. And you're like, I like it. I wanted to talk about the cult that people talk about within veganism. Is veganism a cult? We know it isn't. But then you talk about veganism and you mentioned the word cult. So let's get right into it, George. And well, for those of you just joining us, I'm that vegan teacher. I'm here in Montreal. George is in England. Do we say England or do you say the UK?
You can say either. That's fine. England is more specific, but UK is fine because it is in the UK.
Right. And we're both animal rights activists. And I met George initially online when I was a new vegan. I followed his site called Carnism Debunked. I highly recommend that you follow it. So, George, you want to talk a little bit about what today? What are the main things that you want people to know that are frustrating you right now and that are, misunderstood?
Yeah, so I guess going off the title, why does everyone hate George? I guess that I'm quite a controversial figure in the animal rights movement, though for no good reason, in my opinion. And it's generally because of all these divisive things going on regarding people's political views and stuff like that. And I guess one of the main things we wanted to talk about today, there was a post of mine that you shared a while back on the topic of what people call consistent anti-oppression. Yeah. So for those who don't know, there's a sect of vegans within the vegan movement called intersectional vegans. And they say that in order to be vegan, we must be consistently anti-oppression. So that would mean having very specific political views in their eyes that they deem to be anti-oppressive. The problem with this is that every single vegan, whether they vote for a left-wing party, a right-wing party, no matter what religion they are, no matter what their opinion on, I don't know, abortion is and stuff like that, they are, in their minds, consistently anti-oppression. So this can't possibly work because what they're trying to do is trying to put a monopoly on what it means to be consistently anti-oppressive. And when you start infecting the animal rights movement with human politics, all that's going to happen is it's going to get divided because it can't work like that. You can't have a movement where you're saying, well, you're not vegan, you're not a true animal rights activist because you voted for this politician in the last election, or right. You have this view on gender, or you have this view on immigration, or you have this view on, critical race theory or whatever it is. And how can it possibly work, essentially? And so what my post did is gave an example of 8 different people who would all have completely different views to each other, but deem themselves to be consistently anti-oppressive.
If my head's down, it's just because I'm taking notes. I'm really listening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that's what I just did a post that hasn't been posted yet, but a video about that subject just today when I was walking around. I was filming and I was just talking about how it's been 5 years that I've been vegan. It just got my anniversary, and how kind of the honeymoon is sort of over. Realizing at first, always defending vegans all the time and saying, we must stay together as a community. And now realizing sort of that there's not really a community, in my view, that we are all just individuals. And what I'm saying in this video is that, even if we had a completely vegan world right now where nobody was oppressing animals, nobody was going to the circuses, nobody was buying fur, we weren't riding horses, we weren't eating honey, and all to the greatest extent, we would still find a lot of things to disagree about. Like you said, critical race theory, what our views are on gender, and what our views are on politically, right, left, and all of these different things would still be nuances that would never always align. It's almost impossible to find somebody that you agree with on everything.
Yeah, it is impossible. There's just no way you could do it. Even the person you know who you agree with most in the world, there'll be something that you disagree with them on. So we have to all work together for animal liberation. You can't have a movement where we're just saying only people with X political view is allowed to be in the movement, because then the movement's going to be tiny. It's going to be the tiniest fraction of
It's
people.
already so tiny. If you think,
Yeah.
I don't know what you think, but I personally don't even think if we have necessarily 1% of vegans. I just, actual vegans. If I look at 100 houses in my neighborhood, vegan animal rights activists, and then within that, how many of them are active? And then
you're so right. I always make the point, because you see these studies that come out that give us this false sense of achievement, that say stuff like, Canada is 3% vegan now, the UK is 7% vegan, whatever it is. But that's nonsense. That's like saying that if you walk past 100 people in a crowded street, 7 of those people will be vegan. Bullshit. And the thing is, you go to the Animal Rights March, right, in Canada, where you are in, where it's in Quebec, right, where you're living at the moment. And I don't know if wherever you go for the National Animal Rights Marches and stuff in Canada. And you'll notice, you'll know people there. Like, you're walking around and it's like, hey, Mary, how you doing? Hey, Dave, how are you, kind of thing. If the animal rights movement was that big and there were that many vegans actually in it for the animals, you wouldn't be recognizing all these people every step that you take.
Right. I agree. And you know what? I bought that at first, that I was told that we were 3%. Okay. So when I first became vegan 5 years ago, I was an active school teacher. I was teaching in the school system, and I came out of the closet as a vegan, because I really believe that is what it is like. You come out and then you kind of like, okay, how are people going to react? And yeah, you get attacked left, right, and center. You get judged immediately. And I was like, well, but here I'm in the school system and I teach 365 kids, because I was an English teacher in the French system. So I'd go from class to class. Well, if you take into account those kids and that they each have 2 parents, sometimes more, that's like, I'm going to definitely find some vegans who are going to, want to speak out when we talk about what kind of burgers should we have at the barbecue. Let's get on committees. I'll get an environmental committee and we will all decide it's only vegan burgers. And, when we're talking about the environment, which is connected to the animals, well, we're not going to sell individual packages of apple juice, because this is going this huge stack of plastic in the garbage. And then just quickly realizing, wait, where is everybody? Like, where are these vegans? Where are these, and I found that there was a vegan who was buying leather. Like, yeah. Hello, you're not vegan. Like, she was on the environment committee and she was going for meatless Mondays. And I was like,
this is why research is often flawed, because people often self-identify as things. They don't have they'll just put out a survey of some shitty sample group and they'll say to everyone, are you vegan? And people will just be like, oh yeah, I'm vegan. I only eat fish once a week. Yeah, I'm vegan. And loads of people are ticking these boxes like that. And it doesn't work. You need stringent research methods that say, well, okay, you've said you're vegan. We're now going to actually, really check up on the fact that you actually are, kind of thing.
The fact. Yeah, exactly. So let's keep going. So do you want to talk about so I've got your article up here on an iPad beside me, Consistent Anti-Oppression in the Animal Rights Movement. And I did an entire video about this because I thought it was so great. So do you want to just go through it? I think, George, the best thing to do is for you to read it word for word. We'll stop often so it won't be boring for people, but I think you've written it so well. I think it's worth the time to go through it. What do you think? Yeah,
sure. Okay. Yeah, I'll read it out now.
Okay.
Cool. So the post is on my Instagram. So Carnism Debunked on Instagram, and you go to my highlights and it's called Consistent Anti-Oppression. So it's titled Consistent Anti-Oppression, in quotes, in the Animal Rights Movement. Now it starts, intersectional vegans often tell us that the animal rights movement must focus on, quote unquote, consistent anti-oppression, i.e. being against all forms of oppression, human and non-human. Makes sense, right? Sounds like a sensible idea, right?
When I first heard that, I'm like, yeah, sounds good to me. I agree.
So then I say, sounds great, right? Well, here's the problem. The problem is that how intersectionals define consistent anti-oppression revolves entirely around their worldview and paints their ultra-specific set of political beliefs as the default anti-oppression view. and anything that deviates from this as oppressive, and thus not welcome in the animal rights movement. This includes views on abortion, gun control, capitalism, racial politics, Islamophobia, gender, sex work, feminism, and privilege, all of which one must hold the exact same views as intersectionals on across the board to be considered by them to be, quote unquote, consistently anti-oppression. Yes, all of them. But when every single person in the animal rights movement is consistently anti-oppression in their own opinion and believe that everyone else, including intersectionals, hold views that are dangerous, inconsistent, discriminatory, and problematic, who is to say what is or isn't consistent anti-oppression?
Me.
And what
I get to say it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what makes anyone the moral authority on the matter? So that's the first page. I don't know if you had any comments on that so far.
It's brilliant, George. The way that you wrote it is really brilliant because it's so true. And then we all start, well, you're not really vegan because this, and you're not really vegan. And now George is going to give us his amazing examples. So now we're switching slides, right?
Yeah. So
okay,
now we go to
slides.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to follow along, you can go to George's Instagram, Carnism_Debunked. And he has it. I would like to show you, but because of the green screen, if I show you, it doesn't really work. And I don't know how to press all these buttons. But anyway, go ahead.
So the next slide, it says, the following are 8 examples of random people you could encounter within the animal rights movement. Each of them holds what they consider to be consistently anti-oppressive views, with person 1, so I'll read out the people in a minute, person 1 being representative of the exact type of intersectional who promotes the consistent anti-oppression mantra within animal rights and hashtags their posts consistent anti-oppression. So this is a hashtag they put on their posts.
Yeah, like mine. Mine are all exactly like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure
I hashtag my posts with it as well now, just to piss them off, to be honest. I've even got it as a hashtag.
George, before we go on and list them all, which number are you on that list out of 8?
I just made so the 8 people that I'm gonna sort of do here, they're sort of characters, if so, that I just used for the sake of this post. I think I share some of their views and disagree with each of their views on certain things. Okay. So I don't think I would perfectly suit any single person here. Okay,
but just as an aside, I would love for you to invent a 9th character and tell me exactly what George Martin stands for, because I would be really curious. Like, you know, when you talk about gun control and gender and left-right critical race theory and sexism. But I also understand that you might not want to make it personal because then you're just like a target, right? Like you want to be like, no, I'm just here to discuss the idea.
That's it. Yeah. We can talk about that maybe afterwards, but I'll read them out first.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm that vegan teacher, Miss KADIE, and I want to find out who George is.
Oh, you do.
Well, that's later. Let's listen. Let's keep listening.
Okay, so then I say, but ask yourself, which one of these vegans is truly consistently anti-oppression? So we start now. So person 1, now this represents the intersectional vegans. So intersectional vegans are the people who see veganism as a human, socio-political left-wing movement as much as they do see it as an animal rights movement. And they're the ones who are trying to get across this idea that we should be consistently anti-oppression, meaning their views. So this represents their views. Okay, person 1. I am consistently anti-oppression. Veganism is not veganism unless it's intersectional, which means being anti-capitalist, pro-LGBT, pro-sex work, pro-choice, actively anti-racist, anti-Islamophobia, pro-gun control, and anti-patriarchy. Why is there so much capitalist, right-wing, pro-life, gun-toting trash in this movement claiming to be vegan? So this is that's their view. Okay.
So this person is like against guns and more like say right-leaning.
No, they're left-leaning. This is the intersection.
Oh yeah. Sorry, so left gun. Yeah.
So they're very far left.
Yeah. Now we're going to go to the next one, which is the opposite.
So now we say So now this is person 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Now bear in mind, everyone listening, that person 1 has just said what they say is consistently anti-oppression, and this is what you have to be consistently anti-oppression. But now let's listen to person 2. So person 2 says this. Person 2 says, I am consistently anti-oppression. Being a Republican, I speak out vehemently against the dangers of socialism, an authoritarian and oppressive economic system that would cripple businesses across the country and give more power to the state. As a woman, I'm also terrified of gun control laws being implemented by the left, so people like person one, because if you take away a woman's right to gun ownership, it puts her at risk of sexual violence when walking at night. It's crazy that people say they are pro-choice, yet they want to take away a woman's choice to be able to defend herself from rapists. How can we as vegans defend animals yet not defend women? So bear in mind,
when I read that, George, when I read that, it kind of blew my mind because I'm like,
right.
Holy shit, he's right. Because I was like, no, guns are no good. And then I'm like reading that, I'm like, oh yeah, taking away a woman's right to protect herself. Like, and all of a sudden, I'm like,
yes,
I can totally see the other side then.
And this is the point I want to get across. Okay, so there are studies that show that everyone deems themselves to be a good person, and we vote the way we do because we want the best things. But what intersectionals are pushing is that they're good, and everyone else is just these nasty, evil bigots who are doing these things because they're evil. Person two, who I've just mentioned there, is not saying all that stuff because they're bad or whatever. If you're a left-wing person who heard that, they're doing it because they're deep down a good person and they want the best. That's why they voted. Even though you might not agree, Donald Trump. That's why they want to be able to carry guns, because they think that's good to do that. Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, they think it's really honestly going to protect them. I like how you read that. And you know, these people that are always like, you can't be a capitalist and be vegan. And then you're writing here, oppressive economic system that would cripple businesses. Well, nobody wants to cripple businesses.
Yeah, so especially not vegan businesses, right? So
it's so funny because when I was reading person one, again, I'm consistently anti-oppression, anti-capitalist. I was thinking, well, I remember thinking like, well, I don't know if I'm anti-capitalist. Honestly, I'm not. Like I am, for more. People are too rich. We got to bring down and take care of the poor, of course. But then I'm sort of listening to some of these right-wing people, and I'm kind of like, well, yeah, but I understand. They've tried all these communism and socialism, and it doesn't really seem to work. So why is that if it's so great? And and this, of course, I'm anti-Islamophobic and I'm anti-racist, just like person one. But then when you read person two, I'm like, yeah, but I can also see that point of view, especially that it's crazy to say that they're pro-choice, yet they want to take away a woman's choice to be able to defend herself from racists. How can we as vegans defend animals and not defend women? Like, whoa, very interesting. Okay, let's move on. Person 3 and 4.
So now, now we go to the next slide and we're going to do person 3 now. So person 3, so this is a new person, everyone listening. So person 3.
1 second, George. So anybody who's just tuning in, what we're talking about is George's essay. He's talking about anti-oppression being consistent, and we're going through different types of people. So if you're listening, try to think, what person are you? Like we've just read person 1, and person 1 is more sort of left leaning, and person 2 is more right leaning. And now we're going to go into all these more nuanced things. So we're on person 3.
Yes. So person 3 is a new person. Says, I am consistently anti-oppression. As a Muslim, I have experienced Islamophobia, which is nothing more than thinly veiled racism, throughout my life, and it saddens me to see this manifest in animal rights spaces. The animal rights movement absolutely needs to be inclusive. Being Muslim, I am, of course, pro-life, as the killing of unborn children is a monstrous sin in the eyes of Allah, and it makes no sense to protect non-human animals but not the unborn, who are equally innocent. So that's what person 3 says.
What a slam dunk. I mean, that's another thing. I used to be consistently, when it came to the discussion about abortion, I was always pro-choice 100%. And then when I started thinking about it, as they're slaughtering these cows and there are baby cows inside of them and all of this stuff, and look, in the end, just for anybody who's curious, I'm still pro-choice. Basically, I'm pro-choice. But I realize that it is really, really something that we have to be very careful with. In other words, we need to give out the morning pill to anybody who wants it. We need to have like tons of contraception everywhere. And we really need to educate people more and just not be like, oh yeah, I just feel like having an abortion, and then having these people having abortions at even 12 weeks and 15 weeks when there's signs of sentience starting, like, you know, it's like it's really, it's complex.
It's complex, exactly that. So no matter what your opinion on abortion is, what we need to do as animal rights activists is stick together on this, because it's not this black and white issue that people of either side of the debate say. People keep saying that abortion is just this super simple issue. It's like it's either evil to like oppose it or it's evil to support it, kind of thing. It's not like that. There's so many little nuances and counter arguments to every single position. It's the most complex issue there is, I think.
Yeah, and when I saw, like I said, when I saw those mother cows slaughtered, and then they would cut them open, and there would be this perfectly formed baby cow inside who was completely innocent.
Yeah,
that could have been a woman who aborted this perfectly formed human. Like, at what stage do you say, no?
Yeah.
No, this is just too much. But I've talked about this before, and how, you know, if you meet somebody who's a drug addict and an alcoholic, and they're just going to just completely destroy the life of their child, like, if you can somehow stop that at an early stage, like, it's in everyone's benefit.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can't just kidnap women and put them on an island for 9 months. And, you know, I almost want to say we should almost have a right as a society to do that, which sounds crazy, I know. But, like, what are the other choices? You know, you can, I've taught in schools kids that have come from parents who were drug addicts and who were alcoholics. And these poor kids, they suffered their whole lives. Yeah. With these learning disabilities, and always feeling like they can't quite measure up. And it's absolutely horrible. So it's very complex. I completely agree with you.
I just need to turn my power source on from my laptop, and then I'll move on to person 4. Okay, 1 sec.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna start reading person 4 for George. So person 4, this is what George wrote. I am consistently anti-oppression. Are you back? Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah. You want me to read person 4? Yeah.
Yeah, and every paragraph, by the way, starts with "I am consistently anti-oppression." So all of these people feel that they are right, and we are on person 4 out of 8 people. For those of you just joining us, and it's really interesting, George's essay here, what he's written.
Yeah. So just to refresh everyone's memory, person 3, remember, was a Muslim. Okay. And they believe they were consistently anti-oppression, and that we need to stamp out Islamophobia and blah, blah, blah. So, but person 4 now, they're going to say something a bit different. Person 4 says, I am consistently anti-oppression. I do a lot of advocacy speaking out against the dangers of Islam, which is statistically the world's most provably homophobic and misogynistic belief system. Hence why it must be reformed if we are to protect the rights of LGBT vegans such as myself.
Oh, just 1 second. Like, let people digest this. It's just marvelous. Like, you are just showing us how, you know, you can just listen to one side and go, yeah. And you can listen to the other side and go,
it gets flipped. Your world gets flipped upside down because everyone has
that. Yes. You know, I mean, but you know, if you got to be careful though, because if you side too much with person 4 here, the dangers of Islam, but then you go on to say statistically the world's most
homophobic and misogynistic belief system. They said.
Yeah. Yeah.
So continuing on.
Provably, yeah. I mean, somebody could, I mean, if you're saying statistically and it's provable, then it's not just somebody making this up. And just like, I have a feeling about this. It's, if that's a fact, then we can't deny it.
So I'm just going to continue with what person 4 has said. So person 4 also says, I'm also a firm advocate of women having the choice to do what they want with their own bodies. So I am disgusted by the fact there are pro-forced birthers in our movement. Not to mention SWERFs, that's sex work exclusionary radical feminists, who oppose sex work. Not your body, not your choice. So that's person 4.
Yeah. Yeah, wow.
So, shall we move on to person 5 now? Next slide. Person 5, the new person, folks, says, I am consistently anti-oppression. Now, this is a hot topic at the moment that person 5 is going to speak about. I actively protest against the apartheid state of Israel, which is not a country, but rather an oppressive regime which has subjugated the Palestinian people. I also see a lot of people in the animal rights movement who are pro-sex work, which is incredibly misogynistic and leads to the mass objectification of women, creating a rape culture in our society. Bear in mind, person 4 before them was pro-sex work and said it's not our right to tell women what to do with their bodies. Mm-hmm. So you see the...
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. Moving on to person 6. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
So bear in mind, person 5, what they've just said about the Israel-Palestine situation. That's a very hot topic at the moment. So,
yeah, and you know, people often ask me, well, what's your view on the LGBTQ, and what's your view on sex workers, and what's your view on abortion, and what's your view on what's going on in Palestine and Israel? And I'm just like, you know what? Why do you care? What difference does it make? I'm here for the animals.
For the animals.
I mean, there's something to be said about educating ourselves. Like, it sort of makes you go like, well, maybe I should look into these things a little bit more deeply and come out of it with some kind of an answer. But they're so complex, right, George?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so complex. And this is why we need to push this shit aside and just work for the animals. Because even you and I, Miss KADIE, I bet you we disagree about so much human stuff, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. Because we have the same view about animal rights, which is what we're working for.
But George, here's the thing, you know, like, what about when you see somebody who is an animal rights activist and they do something, if they do so, and I was just saying, you know, I feel like the honeymoon's kind of over, but for me, I've been vegan for 5 years, but if you see animal rights activists doing something that you really disagree with, that you think is actually, you know, against your core values, do you think you have a right to speak out, an obligation to speak out, or an obligation to remain silent about those issues and just be like, you know what, whatever, let's focus on this and just ignore that thing?
If it's my friend, I'll have a civilized political discussion with them, like I do at the pub with my friends. We'll just have a few pints, whatever, and we'll be discussing the latest human social political issue and just having a good-natured discussion about it, trying to change each other's opinions. But no, it's not my right to just message some random person in the animal rights movement saying, why did you vote this way in the election? Why do you have this view on this?
Well, what about, okay, so you don't think, well, you're saying message. See, what I'm doing now, and this is what I feel, is that if I see something going on that I don't agree with, I'm going to speak out, and I mean publicly, because I feel like if somebody is doing something that is damaging to either the environment, or promoting some damage to the environment, or promoting some damage to the animals, if I just speak out just quietly to that person, this message has already gone out to thousands of people. I feel the need that to say what I feel at the core of that needs to be changed. And you know, maybe I'll change in the future, but right now I feel like there's just no time to have, I don't have the energy to message somebody individually and say, what about this? And then you end up talking for 3 hours, whereas you could just simply state, look, what this person did, I don't agree with, and here's why. Because of this reason, that reason, and this reason. And then that's it. You've made your statement, and people can talk all they want, and then you move on to another issue. But of course, you know, because there's so few of us, I can see how that could be controversial. And even what you're doing, this is why we called it, why does everybody hate George? Because look at these examples you're giving. Like, each of them are so fascinating and contradicting each other that, you know, sometimes you could see why, you know, like I said, if I make a statement and say, you know, all LGBTQ people should be vegan, doesn't mean that I'm homophobic. People say you're homophobic. No, I just think that they should all be vegan. Why can't they strive to buy the vegan burger instead of not?
Yeah.
You know, and then I get the whole LGBTQ community hating me. Well, you shouldn't. And just like you said, not everybody should hate you. You're just bringing these points out. Before we continue, you want to read the comment here from Constantine? Thank you, by the way, for the donation.
Yeah. Hey, Constantine. So it seems there's a bit of a contradiction here, Constantine. You said, I'm pro-life because life is only given once. I was a 5-minute failed abortion. I think Oh, sorry, no, Konstantin. Sorry, I've got that. You said I think this movement wouldn't be better without me. Okay, so I misread and thought at first you said it would be better without me, which is what? So yeah, okay. So Konstantin is pro-life because he obviously has a very, dare I say, quite traumatic experience with that. He would have been an aborted baby had the abortion been successful. So he might take it very personally, in fact, that people could be pro-choice because they're essentially saying, you supported killing me. So this can be, but then on the pro-choice side, you can also get people who are very sensitive about people who are pro-life because they could say, having to endure a pregnancy almost killed me or something like that. So this is why it's just such, it's a horrible discussion to have. Like it can't please, it will never please everyone. This is the thing.
Right. And it always takes the focus off the animals.
Yeah.
And that's really, we're both animal rights activists, and we're not even talking about the animals, which is just a real shame. So every once in a while, I'm going to inject something about the animals. If anybody wants to put some facts about the animals, I'm going to put them on screen. If you want to remind people what documentaries that they should be watching, let's put those on screen. Cowspiracy, Forks Over Knives, Dominion Movement, please put them on there. Please remind people to go to howdoigovegan.com. Please remind people to go to, on Facebook, What Broke Vegans Eat, in case somebody says, well, I can't be vegan because I don't have enough money. Well, that's not true. So let's get some comments going, moderators or anybody who knows the facts. Let's keep putting them on screen here to make sure that people are also learning by what's written underneath. Okay, Go ahead, George.
Should we move to person 6 now?
Yeah.
Yep. So just to refresh everyone's memory, person 5, remember, on the Israel-Palestine conflict, they said something about how they oppose the apartheid state of Israel and that it subjugates Palestinians. So now what does person 6 say? Person 6 says, I am consistently anti-oppression. The amount of anti-Semitism I've come across as a Jewish person in the animal rights movement is scary, particularly in the UK, where so many vegans voted for the Labour Party last election, a party which makes my community fear for its safety. Now, I just want to fill everyone in on this, for those who don't know. The Labour Party is the party that most intersectionals in the UK vote for. Remember, these are the people saying we need to be consistently anti-oppression. Yeah. That party, which most of them vote for, had a massive anti-Semitism scandal in the last election. They're deemed by many UK Jews to be a very anti-Semitic party. So this is just how hypocritical it is that intersectionals are suggesting this. Anyway, carrying on. Person 6 continues and says, how can you be anti-oppression and vote Labour, which is what intersectionals do? As well as this, there is a lot of anti-Israel sentiment in the animal rights movement, which is objectively anti-Semitism. It's not possible to condemn the existence of Israel without being anti-Semitic. And this would be a whole nother long diatribe, but many Jewish people do believe that criticism at all of the state of Israel is objectively anti-Semitism, and that there's no real way around that. I think their argument is that if you're just focusing on Israel being bad as a state, but you don't say that about all these other countries that may have come about via unethical means, slavery and so on, like, the United States, then they're saying your problem is clearly not with this country, it's with Jews specifically, because it's the only Jewish country in the world. So that's, I think, many people's argument.
Yeah, and this was a really interesting one. I had 2 friends on Facebook who I thought were great people. Yeah. And 2 women. And one of them, when I was out for coffee, she was like, oh, I can't stand what's going on in Palestine. Those people are just so mean. And, Jews are da, 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 da. And then I went out for coffee with somebody else and she's like, I can't believe what's going on in Israel. Why is Israel doing this to the Palestinian? I was like, I got to get you 2 together. Because I want to hear you talk together, because they were so opposite, and I want to listen to the conversation. And they would not even be in the same room together. They wanted nothing to do with each other. And I both respected and admired both of them. But then gradually over time, I stopped speaking to them because I was just like, I can't understand people who won't, keep learning and keep being open about something. But then again, maybe if I'd looked into it enough too, maybe I too would be, I've made up my mind this way. But how do you feel about this issue, George? Where do you stand on it?
The Israel-Palestine issue? I don't really go... I haven't really been public with my opinion about it. But I guess what I will say is, number one, I don't know enough about it to say it's an extremely informed opinion. So everything I'm saying could be wrong here. So I'm not an expert on this situation. It seems like a very, very complex political issue. From what I gather, the creation of Israel was bad. It was the British unethically gave someone else's land to the Jews because the Jews were persecuted people in Europe, obviously as the result of World War II. But what the British did were just said, well, you can have this bit of land. And the Palestinians were like, but this is our land. And the British were just like, no. So this is allegedly how it came about. I could be getting this wrong.
Right.
However,
and they didn't do it in bad faith. They're just like trying to figure out, okay, like these poor Jews, this is what they went through. So let's just give them this and that'll settle that and everybody will be happy. But it's not so simple.
Yeah. But now, so was the creation of Israel bad? I don't know, potentially. But in this modern day age, I do think that Israel is a less oppressive country than Palestine would be if Palestine had the land, because Palestine is it's run by Hamas, right? Who murder gay people, subjugate women. And so is it not better that Israel has the land where gay people can be free, women are free?
And there's more vegans, apparently. And there's more vegans.
So it's such a, again, this is not something I fall out with people over. This is not something that I say, you have to have this opinion on this. This is just my understanding of the situation and why I don't like to get sort of too involved or too public with my opinions about it, because I don't think it will please people on either side of the debate, to be honest.
Right.
I don't think pro-Israel people listening to what I just said will like that. I don't think pro-Palestine people listening to what I just said will like that.
Right. Which goes back to your original point, which is we should just read this essay and then just not really talk about those things and just focus on the animals.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Did you want me to move on to person 7 now?
Yeah, that would be great.
So we're getting towards the end now of this post that I've made, where every single person has views on what makes them consistently anti-oppression.
Hey, George, 1 second. Can you just wait a second? There's a comment here that says, I'm trying to go vegan. I'm struggling. What would you say to that person?
First of all, the Gaming Fox, thank you so much for wanting to make the change. That shows that you're a good person. You want to make a difference to the animals. What I say to people is, no matter what so-called struggle you think that you're ever going to face going vegan, it's nothing compared to the struggle of the victims. It's not something. If you focus on the victims and not about, yourself, I want this pizza tonight, wherein you can just choose the vegan option, it will be the easiest thing you ever do. It's not a struggle to be vegan at all. The struggle is what happens to the animals when you buy an animal food. So thank you for wanting to make the switch, the Gaming Fox. But remember, it's not us who it's the struggle for. It's so easy. I mean, is it a struggle for you, the Gaming Fox, to not kill a dog? That's not a struggle for you, right? When you see a dog in the street, you don't go, I need to stab this dog in the throat and eat them. I just need to. No, of course it wouldn't be. If anything, it should be a more struggle to do that. Think of that when you see the steak in the shop. If you think, that steak looks good, it should actually be that an animal is going to suffer horrifically if I buy that steak. It would be, you'd have, you couldn't force me to even buy that steak. That should be the mentality.
It's a really good point. It's always putting the animal's face right there. That's what I do. I just imagine their face and their eyes, and I picture myself, if I had a knife in my hand, would I be able to even walk towards them with a knife? I mean, it just could never do it. I would never want to hurt a pig, a chicken, a cow, a lamb, a turkey. Like I just can't see myself doing that. So for me to give money to somebody else and just not look, that's I had some roofers on my roof yesterday, and I was talking to them a little bit about veganism, because anybody who shows up near me, I always try to talk to them about it. And I said, did you ever, do you know what goes on in the industry? And they had 2 dogs, and they said, yeah. I said, well, did you ever watch Dominion or any kind of, I know what goes on. I can't watch that stuff. It's too painful. And I said, well, that's exactly why you need to watch it. Mm-hmm. Don't just not watch it and then buy the steak. Like you have to really get it in your heart, what you're doing, what you're paying for.
Yeah, exactly.
And then people say, yeah, but I like my steak. And it's like, it's not your steak. It's
someone else's body. Yeah. All right. Person 7. So we're coming towards the end now. There's person 7 and person 8. So person 7 believes they're consistently anti-oppression. So person 7 says, I am consistently anti-oppression. As a Black American vegan, I was shocked to see so many vegans voting for and celebrating the victory of Joe Biden last election, a man with a long history of anti-Black racism. Now, bear in mind, Intersectionals wanted Biden to win the election in America. Yeah. Okay, but person 7 is saying that Biden is a racist against Black people. That's what person 7 is saying. Then they say, not to mention pro-hunting/fishing groups like sportsmen and sportswomen for Biden backing him. So this was another argument the Intersectionals used, that it's bad for the animals if you vote Trump and it's better if you vote Biden. But there are actually pro-hunting and fishing groups who said we want Biden to win because it's better for hunting and fishing if Biden wins. So this is again, people could just fire back here and say, no, but Trump actually did all these horrible things to animals, which he did, reversed all these laws and stuff. So again, it's just such a...
And anyway. Even his own kids were doing trophy hunting, or one of the sons was killing giraffes, and there's pictures going around.
Neither are vegan. Let's put it this way. Neither Trump nor Biden are vegan. They're both pro-animal Holocaust. Okay, so it's, it's not a vegan issue of which one you vote for, unless you're an anarchist and you say we shouldn't vote for either at all, kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, what I noticed is that you just mentioned the word Holocaust, and I'm just realizing I don't think you mentioned the word Holocaust in your essay anywhere. Did you?
No, haven't mentioned that yet.
Maybe you might need another slide with 9 and 10. Yeah. Because I think that is a really interesting, because you just threw it out there like nothing, but this is a huge controversial subject. Somebody just texted me today and said, well, I like all these things that this person does, but I really don't like that they mentioned the Holocaust. That's just too much for me. And I'm like, I have no problem with that word. I literally wear shirts that say "End the Animal Holocaust." So I agree with you on this, George, that to use the term, you're probably so used to saying it now, but somebody who's listening for the first time would be like, what? So can we just, before we keep reading, can you just explain to me and the audience who's just joining in, why do you use that term?
Because it objectively is a Holocaust. I don't even see this as some kind of a debate that people should be having. The word Holocaust means, definitionally, slaughter or destruction on a mass scale. Name one thing in history that is a bigger case of slaughter or destruction on a mass scale than the animal Holocaust. There hasn't been one. 2 billion animals are murdered every single week. And I think that's just land animals alone. We can't even count the number of marine animals.
Every week or every year?
Every week.
Every week.
Every week. Yes. So that's more.
So it's astronomical.
Astronomical. That's more than all the...
Can you even picture that? One time I was thinking of doing this for my students, is just taking a jar of raisins and just pouring them on let's count how many raisins are in this package. And there's thousands, right?
Yeah.
Just to get an idea of just to give people an idea of how many animals are slaughtered per second. It's just so astronomical.
Yeah.
The pain is just... Yeah. And we don't see it because we walk outside and we see the sun shining and we hear the birds and we see the clouds.
It's crazy.
And it's all hidden from us. It is an absolute Holocaust because it is hidden from us in the distance, in these barns where they try to muffle out the sound. But depending on where you go in the world, you can stand outside of them and hear the pigs begging for their lives, screaming in terror. And then you see their body parts in the dumpsters behind just being dumped and dead babies falling out of mother cows. And it's just beyond heartbreaking. I have cried so much over the
it's
years.
Objectively a Holocaust. It just objectively is. If someone, in fact, for someone to argue that it's not is actually lunacy. To actually say that isn't a Holocaust is bordering on lunacy.
Yeah.
And there's a huge inconsistency as well, because people say, oh, you can't use that word. That's specific to what happened in World War II. But they never say that for all of the other Holocausts that have happened, the human Holocausts, the Holocausto Silencia in Guatemala, right? That's the silent Holocaust, it was called. The Sikh Holocaust that took place in India. The Japanese Imperial Holocaust, I think it was called. Maybe it's a few thousand years ago that one was. The Armenian Holocaust. What many Indians call the British colonial Holocaust that happened in India. So, but they never say to people who use those terms, you can't use that term. No, they respect it whenever it's any of those, but they don't respect it when we say the animal Holocaust. And that's speciesism. It shows that you are speciesist. You are a bigot towards animals. And that makes it more of a Holocaust, because you're saying those beings are inferior to you. We're gassing these because they're inferior to us. That's how Holocausts work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's Holocaust denial. It's to say that that's not.
Games.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a comment by Cody. Thank you, Cody, for reminding people to watch these important documentaries.
Yeah.
Can I just say something quickly here?
Sure.
It's just about something. This is I think this is the same Cody. We were talking on Instagram, and I just want to say this is just something that I wanted to let people know. A lot of times people share videos on TikTok and on Instagram of animals that are suffering. And what's happened is, because music is so easily available, there are often these popular songs that they just stick in behind of this. And I want to say that I am completely opposed to using this music when we are showing these animals suffering, because music is so powerful that if you're hearing a happy beat while you're watching animals going into gas chambers, the music actually overrides what you see often. Think about a horror movie. If you're watching just a scene and you're not hearing duna, duna, you turn the volume off, it's not scary at all. What makes a horror movie scary is the music. So the same works in reverse. If you're listening to happy music, or music that's not really super minor chords and sad, what you're doing is you're delivering to the public this idea of they're going to see these animals suffering, but they're going to hear the happy music and they're not going to make the connection. So I'm urging everybody who's sharing videos of animals suffering on TikTok or on Instagram to really listen to what you're posting. If there's any music attached that is happy, danceable, jazz, or whatever, remove it. Do not share that post, because you're actually, I think, potentially doing more harm than good.
Okay. Shall we continue on with thing?
Yeah.
Cool. So person 8 now. So if anyone remembers person 7, they were a black person who votes Trump because they believe Joe Biden is racist. Now, person 8 says, I am consistently anti-oppression. I refuse to vote because it's not vegan to vote. How on earth does it make sense to say you are against animal subjugation if you want to subjugate the human animal? After all, humans are animals too. I would describe my philosophy as anarcho-capitalist. A stateless capitalist economic system is best for society and for the animals, because freedom and liberation is not possible under socialism. Indeed, the freer the market, the freer the people. So that was the last person. They say it's not vegan to vote at all because it's a form of subjugating humans, and humans are animals, is what they're saying, which is actually something intersectionals agree with. But many intersectionals would not share this person's opinion on certain things.
Mm-hmm. George, you want to read this comment?
Sure. I'm vegan in a way. I only have dairy from ahimsa farms or farms that don't hurt the cows. I would be very skeptical. So first of all, you're not vegan in any way if you are consuming someone else's stolen milk. It's not for us to take. But I think your heart could be in the right place, and maybe you're trying to reduce cruelty to animals. But ultimately, you have to be very wary of these labels, my friend, when they're saying ahimsa farms, or oh, we're a farm, but we don't hurt the cows. What evidence do we even have for that? If there's a facility that exists for humans to profit off animals in some way, you can be pretty damn sure that they will harm the animals in many ways. Now, I know that these ahimsa farms, I'm pretty sure they don't do anything to physically harm the cows, if I'm correct. So they don't like shoot the calves or anything like that. And I think they let them breed naturally and all this kind of stuff. But it still ultimately is someone's stolen breast milk that you're drinking. And we need to end that connection. The only milk you ever needed was your own mother's milk. Now, with regards to these other farms that are not ahimsa, but just say, oh, we don't harm the cows, that is utter bullshit. They absolutely do. They kill the male calves, but they'll just say something like, oh, they don't feel anything or something like that. They rape, they sexually violate.
Taking cows away from baby cows away from their mothers is a horrible thing. And anybody who's been a mother should understand that. Or even any husband who's seen his wife with a child, imagine somebody taking that child from her. Yeah. Like, we know it's wrong.
Yeah. Of course. So I would just say, why do you still need to be drinking someone else's breast milk at this age? Like, why not just be vegan? Why is it that you're having to drink bovine secretions? Milk is literally baby food, and the only milk you ever needed was milk from your mother. So why even buy this ahimsa milk at all? What's the point?
Yeah, just drink water and eat lentils. Like, it's not hard.
Yeah, and if it's, I just want to say to that last person as well, if it's for religious reasons, maybe you're like a Hindu or a Jain, and because I know a lot of Hindus and Jains do choose this so-called ahimsa milk. There are vegan Hindus and Jains, so you know. This person says, ever heard of free-range eggs? I'm assuming this person is not a vegan, and they're trying to say that eggs are cruelty-free if they're free-range. Nothing could be further from the truth. Go and watch hatchery footage. What sex are all the birds on those egg farms? They're all female. You know why that is? What do you think happened to the males? Males at the hatchery, that's the place that births the chicks and sells them to the free-range farms, they fucking murder the male chicks. They drop them into a shredding machine, or they drop them into sacks to suffocate them.
I don't hear you swear very often. I'm going to just take a note here.
Oh, no, I swear a lot. I think it's because I've been reading a post which hasn't had any swearing on it so far this stream. So,
what about, look at this one.
This is boring. It's like school. Well, you don't have to be. Yeah, this that is vegan teacher. Yeah.
Of course, it's like school. That is why you're here, to learn something. And you know what? My mom always used to say, if you think something's boring, it's because you are boring. You are not open enough to learning. There is never one single reason to ever be bored in this world. There is too much history to learn. There is too much to learn in the present. There's too much work to do here. If you think this is boring, I urge you to just take somebody who's vegan, take their comment right now that says watch Dominion Movement, that says watch Earthlings, and write that down. And I will put it on the screen, Jameer. All right, Jameer? You stay here, young man. Or is this a man or a girl? I don't know.
I think Jameer is a guy's name, I think.
Jameer, you stay here. You're not allowed to leave, and you do some homework. I want you to write something positive about what you learned. Write what vegetable you ate today. Write how you're about to try tofu for the first time or whatever. But stay here and do some work. Contribute. Don't be bored. There's way too much to learn and do. We need you. Let's keep going. Okay, so George, so you were last on person 7. Actually, I'm going to put something else on the screen for this comment here. If anybody has anything else, please put it on the screen. I don't have time to look through this here. I'm just going to write something if it's not there. I'm going to say, watch Earthlings. I'm going to type that. Watch Earthlings. Okay, that's a good movie to watch. Where did my comment go? Oh, here's something from Zactivist. Oh,
Zactivist. So I want to shout out Zactivist. Are you aware of Zactivist, that vegan teacher?
Yes, I am. Hi, Zactivist.
Yeah, he's a very, very dedicated young man, animal rights activist who's doing a lot of great work here in the UK. He's only a very young lad. I think he might be 13 or 14 or something like that. And he's out on the streets all the time making a difference to animals. So yeah, thanks for tuning in.
If you have your parents' permission to be here and for me to talk to you, by all means, tell them to come onto Instagram and leave me a message saying that it's okay for me to interview you. Can't be just a voice message because I got to really see their faces, or they can call me. And then, it'd be great to talk to you.
Yes, get Zactivist on. That would be awesome. I would love to watch you do a live stream with Zactivist, and I'm sure it'd be fine. I'm sure his parents would be fine with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
And any other young people who have the right, who are allowed to be on camera, if you are allowed, let's get a couple of teenagers on here. Why not? You guys are awesome. We need you. It is so much vegan phobia out there, Zach. I'm really proud of you to keep at it. Don't get discouraged. I know it sucks out there sometimes. Like, there's so many mean people, so many uneducated people. Try to stay positive and patient. I know it's hard, but hey, hats off to you. Good job. All right.
Shall I read the final? So we've read all the 8 people. Shall I now read the final slide that just summarizes that post? Okay. So now we're coming to the end of we're on the very end page now, folks. I don't know if any of you have been following along on my Instagram. It's my consistent anti-oppression post in the highlights. So now I end that by saying, do you now see the problem this leads to if we include human politics as integral to animal rights and give one political leaning a monopoly on what it is to be anti-oppression in a human context? All of those people in the examples deem themselves to be consistently anti-oppression, yet all of them would have problems with views held by person 1, that was the intersectional, and person 1 would take issue with at least one view held by every single one of those other individuals. And indeed, they would with each other. None of them agree with each other on stuff. Intersectionals may arrogantly assume that only person 1 is right and all the others are wrong. Do they really think in a world this diverse, all of us can just magically agree on human politics? The world of human politics is far too complex to include in animal rights. That's why we need to unite on something we all agree on as vegans, which is that we must fight for the rights of non-human animals. Conclusion: it's no good demanding consistent anti-oppression when everybody already is consistently anti-oppression in their own eyes. There we are. That's the end.
In their own eyes. Yeah. Fascinating. It's a great essay. So you guys can look at that essay. It's a bunch of little paragraphs, very easy to digest, very well laid out, and it's on George's Instagram. And I've got it here on the side on my iPad, and I'm just looking at it, and it's great. George, let's move on to the thing that we were talking about with regard to cult. I want to touch a little bit on that because the word, people often say veganism is a cult. Just yesterday, somebody wrote in my comments, sounds like she's a cult leader. And I mean, it couldn't be further from the truth. Being in a cult is not the same thing as being vegan, and veganism is not a religion either. Yet you are starting to use the word cult. Can you tell the audience here in what context that you're doing that?
Yeah, so I've been doing several posts recently about cults, but it has nothing to do with veganism as such being a cult. What I'm talking about is a certain type of political cult that is infecting the animal rights movement. So pushed by the people like that, but mainly by the intersectional sort of what we call the woke mob, what we're actually seeing and people aren't considering is that this is cult behavior, the sort of stuff that they're pushing right now that is infecting vegan spaces, but also wider society. So
they say they're against cults, but they act like with the way that they act is exactly like being a cult member.
Well, I don't think they've specifically... I don't think they have ever, they don't make a point of saying anything against cults like the woke mob. They don't say anything about, I mean, people just by default, we all say we're against cults anyway, right? And I guess they would say that, but they don't realize that what they're doing is pushing a cult. So to describe the sort of stuff that's going on, I'm seeing people in the animal rights movement being manipulated emotionally brainwashed and broken down by people to join these little sects within the animal rights movement that are actually dividing people based on political opinions. And what they're doing is they're literally saying things like, you should dump your boyfriend and break off from these people. Oh, why are you following this person on Instagram? You need to unfollow them immediately. This person is a bigot. This person is a this person is problematic.
Hold on a second. I just did that the other day. I did a video where I told a woman she should break up with her boyfriend. She should dump him. Would you like to know why?
Why was it?
Well, he's not vegan. And she's been dating him for almost 2 years. And
Yeah.
I said, look, and it appeared that this is a couple that, you know, she's apparently vegan and they haven't moved in yet together. And I just said, you know, I'm sorry, but that's way too long. Like, if he hasn't changed by now. But then you find out that he'd actually not even really been exposed to the documentaries yet, which was completely shocking. Like, so my advice was, look, I give my suggestion, you guys stay with this guy for 1 more month. Make sure he watches the documentaries. If he refuses, dump him. If he watches the documentaries and doesn't change, dump him. If he watches the documentaries and says, look, I really get it and I'm going to change, hold on to that guy. That's what I said.
Yeah.
What do you think? Would you ever date somebody who's non-vegan?
No, if I was to get a girlfriend, they would absolutely have to be vegan for sure. I would date a non-vegan girl with the aim of turning them vegan.
Exactly. That's what I said. I said,
tactic.
should people date non-vegans? Like, people asked me, and I said, yes, you should date non-vegans. That's totally fine, because some people just have no idea. They never thought about milk. They never thought about where it came from. They honestly have been brainwashed. They don't know. But for how long would you date somebody? This is an interesting topic. You know, we could have a whole conversation just about this, but let me just touch on your brain a little bit here. Just see if we're thinking the same way, George. And that could be another 2 people on your list. How do you feel about how long you should date a non-vegan? But anyway, well, go ahead. How long would you date somebody for? Before, and then you realize, you know what, this person's not changing.
Well, I would. The point is, I would date someone for as long as it was before starting a relationship, if that makes sense, before them becoming my girlfriend. But we would have to be girlfriend and boyfriend under the condition that we were both vegan. It wouldn't work. So I would go on dates with non-vegan girls kind of thing, but I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't have a non-vegan partner.
Okay. Yeah. So what I said is I sort of said, I have this idea in my head of a month or so, but it really depends too, because some people, you know, if they live close to each other, they're seeing each other all the time, and you're spending hours together, you're sleeping over, and you're just spending, you know, a lot of time together. That's really like, let's get to know each other in a really condensed way. Others, it's like you might see each other on Tinder or whatever and text once and then a day later. So what, you know what I mean? Like, what is it? But so is it a certain amount of hours that you spend together? But I said like roughly about a month or so. You know, you tell people like, you know, hey, I'm this person. I feel strongly about this issue. What do you think about it? They might be like, I don't really care or whatever. But then you have to see whether they, you know, when you start to tell them, no, you don't understand. This is a core principle of mine. It really means a lot to me. I'm going to need you to be vegan at some point in, you know, soon-ish, or really understand. And if they're like, no, you know, then you kind of, but if they're open and it takes them a little while to kind of get it, like I say all the time, it takes 100 clicks to become vegan. And if you're just hearing it from one person that you're dating the first time, you're going to be like, that seems too crazy. I could never do that. That's weird. Right. But
yeah, I know what you mean.
Hopefully they're going to watch Dominion movement with you, and they're going to watch the Game Changers, and they're going to understand that you can be vegan and be healthy, and they're going to come around. But yeah, I think so. Yeah, I guess we kind of agree on that one. Would you say?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I as I say, like, you would want, for me, yeah, there would be a certain amount of time before I said, right, we've been, you know, fooling around for a few months now. Like, do you want to be my girlfriend, kind of thing? And are you going to go vegan? And then if they did go vegan, then it'd be cool. But if they were like, no, then straight out the door.
Right. So Zactivist, he's talking about the video that I made. I guess he knows that person, or I didn't actually know who they were. Zach. I don't know, somebody sent me the video or it popped up somewhere and I just thought, oh, okay, I'll react to this. So my reaction video was to just watch the two of them talking about that. And they were basically saying, we don't want you to judge our relationship, but here it is. He's not vegan and I am. And then, of course, I proceeded to immediately judge the entire relationship in my video. But yeah, pushes meat-free Monday and impossible meat. So
this is another hot topic in the animal rights movement, the Impossible Burger.
What do you think about it? So you know what, George, I'm taking notes for you, okay? I want you to add to this list because I think your essay is so good. Listen to me for a second, okay? Listen to me, young man.
Okay.
I want you to write a book, okay? And I want this to be included. Now you could go on, okay? Because your examples are so good. Now it's great. It's great as a little post, right? But like the subjects I want to talk about I think you should touch on are the Holocaust, to use the word or not. The other one is to use the word rape or not. Some people like, care so much about, but, and I hate that person because they use the word rape. And other ones are like, of course we have to use the word rape. So these are another one. And what was the last one that we just said? Impossible meat.
Impossible burgers. Yeah.
See, so you already have. If you're up to 8, you have 9, 10, 11. Like, and I'm sure we can find more.
I see those. Yeah, though I see those as more slightly vegan specific issues rather than human socio-political issues. Particularly with the impossible thing, which is just strictly a vegan issue, I think.
Well, let's think about that more. Maybe you might be right, but
yeah,
I don't know. Okay, anyway, but very, very interesting. Okay, so what do you think about the Impossible Burger?
Yeah, for me, it's not a vegan product. I don't understand how it can be. Here's the thing. There's many... We bicker over so many things in the animal rights movement. So for the people who are animal rights activists who do have this argument for why it is a vegan product or why we should support it and this will help animals in the long run, whatever, I'm not going to shut them out of the movement or anything kind of like that. I can work with people who I vehemently disagree with on this issue because... I think they're well-intentioned in what they think, but for me, I just don't get it. I'm not getting their argument here.
George, tell people what it is. People are just tuning in here. We have 122 people watching. Maybe they know what it is, but people are just popping in and leaving. Not everyone has a life, so sometimes they might not know what it is. So
so this is a very divisive issue in the animal rights movement. It's over the creation of Impossible Foods. What they did, they're a plant-based meat company who make extremely realistic plant-based meats. Okay, so burgers and sausages and stuff like that. Anyway, what they did to get their first product on the market, right, the Impossible Burger, which apparently tastes very, very much like a dead cow burger, which other companies have done, Beyond and all this. What they did was they tested on 120 or so rats in order to get this soy hemoglobin ingredient safety checked for the market. So they fed this ingredient that they wanted to put in their burger to 120 or so rats and then murdered them afterwards. This Impossible Foods commissioned this test. And vegans are saying that this is a vegan product. I don't get how it can be any more than an animal-tested cosmetic. If we're saying buy only cruelty-free cosmetics, and I don't know if it's the same in Canada. You have like the leaping bunny symbol on the packaging and stuff. That's common in the UK. Might be in. Do you see that in Canada? You have the leaping bunny symbol.
Yeah, we have things like that.
Yeah. So if we're encouraging people to buy cruelty-free cosmetics, and we're saying, this makeup brand isn't vegan because they test on mice and rabbits and whoever, how can we say the Impossible Burger is vegan? A fucking burger as well. It's like, and people are acting like it's I think a lot of the pro side tends to be coming from what's called a utilitarian point of view, which means arguing for the greater good. So saying something bad could have happened, but if we support it, it will be overall better in the long run. And I think I get their argument, and I think it's well-intentioned. But a burger isn't the solution to animal liberation. We're not going to liberate animals by buying a fucking burger. I think they're overhyping the idea that buying this Impossible Burger will somehow just magically liberate the cows or something. You can just make number one, another plant-based company could just come along and just do a burger without the fucking animal testing. So why should we support Impossible Foods? And number two, it's if non-vegans want to buy it, they will, but most non-vegans aren't going to buy that. They're just going to say, why the fuck would I buy the Impossible Burger? I want to buy the beef burger. So I don't see who is buying this product apart from vegans who think that it's an ethical product when it's not.
So what do you think about if you were there and the company was making this product and they were about to test on these, was it rats or mice?
It was rats, I think.
Rats. Would you suggest to them, look, just put it on the market. We're going to test it on humans. Just the same way that these vaccines were just pushed through and we are kind of the guinea pigs. Would you just say, look, okay, fine, you can have your burger, but we're not testing it on animals?
Well, they couldn't. Well, it was illegal for them to use that ingredient without it being animal tested. So the FDA or whoever, I think that's the deal. This soy hemoglobin ingredient, which makes it taste a lot allegedly like the dead cow flesh, this is something that had to be safety checked or something via animal testing. So they could have gone without it, but they chose to do it because they have the idea that we're the burger is going to change the world kind of thing. But it's not going to change the world. The Impossible Burger isn't just going to change. Plant-based meats as a whole will help, but the Impossible Burger alone isn't going to just like magically liberate all the cows kind of thing. So I'd have said to them.
As a teacher, what I think we need to do is change things at the root. Like I'm talking preschool, I'm talking daycare, like just starting to teach this idea that speciesism is wrong and that we need to suffer more in life, for lack of a better way of saying it. You know, we're so used to, but it tastes good, so I want it, and that's, oh well, I'm just gonna have to eat that burger because it tastes better. Like, we need to suck it up and just be like, too bad if it tastes good. We're not going to hurt this innocent creature, or we're not going to, this thing like sometimes, buying a bottle of water, for example, I'm at a gas station and I have no water. I have to buy a bottle of water. This is now we're talking about the environment and plastic. Okay. You might say I'm off topic, but I all see this all is related personally. Yeah, you could do that. Or you could just turn the faucet on, wash your hands, cup them, and drink out of your hands like 16 gulps, which is the same as buying that plastic. Like, just suffer a bit. Like, I know you'd rather go like this and drink out of a bottle, but you can just drink out of your hands and not add that plastic. Like, but we are so, or just, bring a reusable container when you're going out to buy stuff. We're so out of the habit of putting ourselves out of the way at all. Even just bringing, like, having a knapsack with you and carrying a fork and a knife rather than using plastic ones when you're out, and just rinsing it under the sink in the bathroom. You're going to wash your hands anyway before you leave. Just rinse it and that's it. Throw it back in your bag. A plastic plate, carry that with us. And but it's really hard because we don't have the support of the society around us. If it became the norm to do these things, that everyone had a little knapsack, a little pouch with their own little, very thin plastic plate that doesn't weigh much, and that they can keep reusing, and the fork and a knife and a reusable cup. And this became all the norm. That's what we need. We need to teach society to be less selfish and just, your suffering is like nothing compared to what the greater harm that you're doing.
Yeah, of course. Especially when it comes to veganism, which is just such an easy thing to do now. I can't believe people are so hooked on the idea that they have to. Like if someone's in the freezer section at the grocery store and there's 2 Ben & Jerry's flavors there, one is made from the almond and one is made from the murdered, raped cow milk. Why would you not just choose the almond Ben & Jerry's? They've got a cruelty-free version and a cruelty version. Why would you not, Habit and this prejudice against vegan items, I think. And it's just like it's really, we need They wouldn't know the difference if they tasted them. They literally, you can't tell that it's a different. It tastes exactly the same.
But yeah, okay, I agree 100% with that. But like, even if you can tell, even if one is like, maybe 25%, it's not quite what I'm used to. But oh well, suffer. Just suffer a bit. And this is another thing I tell people all the time is when you open your fridge, people saying, oh, it's so expensive to be vegan. Well, how much actual food are you wasting in your life? Like most people waste a lot of food.
Yeah.
I tell people when you open your fridge, and I did this with my kids too. I said, when they were young, I said, you open the fridge and you eat what needs to be eaten, not what you want to eat. So if you see that there's a bunch of strawberries there and they've been there for a couple of days, you eat those. I don't want to end up throwing that in the garbage or the spinach. But people are like, no, I'm not in the mood for strawberries. Well, too bad. Eat the fucking strawberries. That was one of my famous videos on TikTok. Someone is like, well, I don't like the way that tofu tastes. And I said, I don't give a fuck if you like the way. Eat the fucking food and that's it. Like,
how can you not like the way the tofu just absorbs the flavor of whatever you cook anyway? You can't not like the way tofu tastes because it's just
don't make it another way.
Yeah, make it another exactly. People it's so petty.
Which leads me to the subject quickly. Do you have, or does anybody watching have an air fryer? Because I haven't bought one yet and I want to buy one because people tell me that the tofu tastes so crispy and good and there's other things. And I don't know if I need another appliance on my counter because I already have a pressure cooker, a blender.
Well, my tip for tofu, I don't have an air fryer, but my tip for tofu for getting it nice and firm and crisping it up a bit is actually just to whack it in the oven beforehand. So a lot of what people do will buy extra firm first of all, and don't chuck it straight in the frying pan because it will still have a bit of moisture in it. I dry it out in the oven. That gets it nice and firm and sort of crispy.
You can also press it with a tea towel, like press it and absorb a lot of the moisture. I also heard that, and I've never tried this, that you can put it in the freezer. And then when you cut it up after, it's apparently better. I don't know. Yeah,
it might dry it out a little bit. Frozen foods are drier when they cook.
Yeah. I don't know where the moisture goes because it's all in a plastic. But anyway. Yeah. Okay, so interesting tips. If anybody has an air fryer that they really, really love or they recommend that I should get it, please tell me the model and let me know because I think I'm going to look into getting that. The truth is that I cook very simply. My husband and I, we just eat super simple. We're not very fancy cooks, but I think I've got to probably step it up a notch because people really look to me and like, what are you eating? It better be good. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just having a banana and toast and a smoothie with spinach.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were talking a little bit more about the cult. So do you want to keep talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, and what this political cult of wokeness has done that's infected animal rights, it's divided people into these tiny little sects within veganism, and we're seeing all the hallmarkings of cult signs. We're even seeing financial exploitation. So one really, this is just one ridiculous example, but it was in like an intersectional vegans, I think, girls group on Facebook. And
what do you mean a girls group?
Just for
what are you doing in there?
I wasn't in it.
Oh,
this is just something I heard about.
Okay.
And there was a black.
Well, first of all, I disagree right away with the start. A girls group. I think you can call it a girls group if you want, but you should be allowed to let everybody in there. I mean, otherwise it's discrimination. I don't think we should discriminate against men anyway. But whatever. It was a girls group and they were doing what?
Yeah, and they were saying, and there was a black girl in there who, as part of this cult, was obviously convincing white people like that they're bad and that they owe other people everything. And she was asking things like, hey, I need to go to the cinema tonight. Can you white people, can any of you white people in this group please send me some money for tickets to go and stuff? And the white cult members just obliged. They were just like, yes, sort of thing. I'll just send you some money.
We're so sorry. We're so sorry that our ancestors abused your ancestors. Hey, here's some free money.
Yeah. It's a cult. Yeah. It's mental, emotional manipulation. People have been broken down to think irrationally. It's brainwashing. And they saw this as like normal behavior. How can they not see that is completely irrational, brainwashed behavior? This whole sort of attitude was in this group as well. There was one of these cults, and they're saying like, dump your boyfriend if they have this view on this. but not even relating to veganism, talking about human political issues. Thank you, Louis. Yeah, good to see you commenting. I'm going to try and read. So what were the other things that I mentioned that was in here, actually? I'm just going on my Instagram now. So for anyone interested, if you go on my Instagram, Carnism Debunked, I've got a new highlight here about cults. And this one's called Identifying Cults Within Animal Rights Spaces. So excommunication. So I did a podcast recently that's only available to my Patreons of a girl who describes herself as being in this cult. And she said that since she was excommunicated, so to speak, from the cult, because she shared something by an author that they deemed to be problematic on her Twitter, all she did was just share a quote by someone, and they all like dogpiled her, like, why are you sharing this person? You can't share this because it goes against the cult's ideology. And
wait, what was it?
It was just a quote by some author that she read. She liked the quote, and they all messaged her saying,
but do you remember what it was? The quote itself? I'm just curious.
No, don't remember the quote, and I don't know if she even remembers.
Okay, so it was like this cancel culture thing. Like, don't even share that quote. Like, let's not give this person a platform to spread their X, Y, Z, whatever.
Yes.
And you're against cancel culture. You think people can share whatever quotes they want, and let's talk about the quote.
Yes. But this went against the cult's guideline, where they had to obviously agree on every single tiny little thing, and they're only allowed to buy these books, and they're only allowed to share things by these authors, and they're only allowed to visit. There was even in this group that she was part of, they would say, you can't go and watch this film, the director is this, they have this view on X. It was crazy how much it was just it's complete control. Like, that's what cults do. They have control over each other's lives. So anyway, the ex-cult member on my podcast, she told me that since she was excommunicated, since then, bear in mind, she was in this cult with who she thought was her best friends. Not a single person, not a single one of those people has reached out to her since to check if she's okay after being bullied and excommunicated and told that she was a bigot and a horrible person, had all these call out posts about her because she just shared something by an author that they didn't like. Not a single person since then has even reached out and said, are you okay? Like, we hope your mental health is fine. And do you still want to be friends and blah, blah, blah. Which means that there's that culture of fear that they're fostering within them that's saying, if you dare reach out to this excommunicated person, that makes you one of them. You're now as bad as one of them. Don't you dare try and contact anyone, because we'll come for you if you do that. It's a cult.
Yeah. And I can relate to that, because when I was removed from the platform of TikTok, it was kind of a shock. I mean, I had no warning. Like, a lot of people have lost their channel and got it back. I never was given even a reason. I was never sent an email or given a reason at all. And, I worked 11 months straight, like nonstop, day and night, to build that. I had 1.7 million followers, I think 1.8. But then I had several other accounts. One of them had 107,000 followers, that vegan nurse, and so on. I had worked really hard. And it was just like, oh, well, like, hey, some people were nice and checked in on me to see, like, are you okay? Like, that's quite the blow. But a lot of people were just like, no, let's stay away from her, because, and then again, all of these rumors, people saying that I was racist. I wasn't.
Yes. So a lot of those people who are saying those things against you are in a cult. They've been told that if you follow that vegan teacher, if you share anything by that vegan teacher, you are now what we have been accusing her of. So they have this very specific set of people and they all agree. They have to agree with everything politically. Every single political issue there is, they have to, like, it's like a checklist. It's crazy.
And like I said at the beginning, what I'm feeling now after 5 years of being vegan is that I am going to be calling out what I consider personally to be bad behavior. But that doesn't mean that I throw the whole person out. Like, if there's an activist that has done a lot of good things, but then they do something that I think is way off in left field, that's just like, what are you doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense. I will call out that behavior, but I won't tell people stop following him or her. And I can think of the top of my head a few people. I'll just say, look, that thing that they're doing seems really out of character. Maybe they didn't think that through. That's weird. One of them was a vegan who was on Instagram shown with a picture smoking a cigarette. I'm like, what in the hell is she thinking? Like, cigarettes are tested on animals. And she's like, her explanation was, well, I was just, it was just a picture. My friend had cigarettes, so I just took a drag and took a sexy picture of myself with it or whatever. I mean, I didn't actually draw attention to that post myself because I let it go. But then when other things similar started to come up, I thought, you know what, I am going to speak out and say, that's not okay. And, people are just like, how can you speak out against someone of our community? And I say, we don't have a community. That's an illusion. I used to say that too, the vegan community. And once in a while, I'll spit it out. It'll still fall out of my mouth just out of habit. And what I mean is, in general, vegans. But the reality is we're all individuals and we all have very different ideas. And some people, for example, say, hey, KADIE, I like everything you do, but just you really should stop using the word rape. And I'm like, no, I'm not, because that's what they do. They literally sexually touch the bulls and the female cows. In a way, it's rape. Or the word Holocaust. It's a Holocaust, like you said, objectively speaking. So, people might say that, but hopefully they're not just unfollowing me completely because we don't agree on that one thing. They might say, look, I agree with her for this, but not that. And that was my criticism about when Earthling Ed made a video and he just sort of nonchalantly said, that vegan teacher, I don't agree with everything she says. And then he went on, but he just kind of gave this sort of like, well, what do you mean? What don't you agree with? Let's talk about it. But he wouldn't engage with me, and I'd never met the guy in my life. I didn't even know he knew I existed. Anyway, so I just think, it's okay to speak out on one another's ideas and discuss them, and even publicly. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, 100%. You can't have a healthy society without fostering healthy discussion and having the idea of, if this is a view that people don't like, we can challenge that view and talk about it. But cancel culture just leads us down this fascist authoritarian route of not being able to question things at all, which is what these cults that are actively hampering the vegan movement are trying to push within vegan spaces. So this what's this? I'm reading this comment. Then you harassed George and then you came back to me. I don't know what they're talking about.
So there's a this is probably somebody pretending to be Dream. There's a person who has, I don't know how many millions and millions of followers. Maybe somebody can check to see if this is the real Dream or not. I doubt it. But anyway, there's this person. He's a YouTuber who plays all these video games a lot. And when I was on TikTok, I was using this little logo that's there. You have free stickers on TikTok. So that I was using them, and I was putting a little bow tie on one of them, and then a little bow in the hair, and making, I called them my little penis head, because to me this looked like a little penis head, and I thought it was like sort of a cute little thing, and I was like, I wonder if Mr. and Mrs. Penis Head are vegan or not, and all this stuff. Anyway, so, but they're not referring to you, George. They're referring to this other person, a YouTuber called George Not Found.
Okay.
So this person, George, who is George Not Found, another like prominent, these are all gamers. And I was going after anybody who had a large following to tell them all to be vegan. Because if George Not Found became vegan, or Tommy Innit became vegan, or Dream became vegan, it would help save millions and millions of animals. Because they would just say, hey, you know what? I listened to that vegan teacher and I've decided to be vegan. Why would I hurt animals if I don't have to? That simple sentence could have such a domino effect. So of course I was going to go and talk to them. So this guy George was one day saying he's walking around on TikTok. He's like, I need some likes, people. I need people to like my post. So I made a video and I said, you want people to like you? Stop paying for the rape, torture, and murder of animals. Be vegan. And the world just lost their minds. Like, why are you picking on him out of the blue? And I'm like, because I pick on everyone. Like, not personal. Like, it's just be vegan. Anyway, so I guess this person is saying you harassed and then you came back to me. What do you mean back to you? Whoever you are, whether you are a fake Dream person who has like one follower. Often when we click on these accounts, they have like one subscriber. Be vegan. Simple as that. Stop hurting animals. There's no excuse for animal abuse.
Yep. I have to go in the next 10-15 minutes or so we can read maybe a few comments and wrap this up.
Yeah. Did you want to say this comment has been there before, by the way? Thank you again, Cody. This is the definition of veganism. George, did you want to say anything about the cult idea anymore? Do you feel like you explained it well enough?
Yeah, and I just want to. I think a lot of people might still be confused about what I'm talking about. So all I would say to anyone who's thinking, "What the fuck is this guy going on about?" Go to my Instagram and go on my story highlight called Cults, which is where I talk about these sort of political cults that are infiltrating vegan spaces, and they are causing a lot of problems to people's mental health and so on within veganism. So do check out that story highlight on my Instagram if you didn't sort of understand what I was saying.
Yeah. And I want to thank KADIE here, who is I love KADIE's name. It says Watch Dominion Documentary. This is such a great title. And I love the fact that your name is there, KADIE. So right away, I can relate. First of all, my son's named KADIE. So that's already one thing. I'm like, oh, I wonder how old this kid is. Or is this I don't know if you're an adult or if I have no idea. Anyway, so that's kind of an interesting thing. And also the fact that you're like your name and is everything there we can relate to. And you're consistently posting the same things, which is so important to educate people, because people see these words at first and they go over their heads. Dominion, what's that? Earthlings, what's that? But when you keep hearing them over and over, and one day when you're going through Netflix, you'll be like, oh yeah, maybe I should click on that. So thank you so much. I know it might seem like boring work to keep reminding people all of these things, but it's so important, and I'm so thankful, and I know the animals are too. Go ahead, George.
This is good. Scientific studies have proven that dogs and cats on a vegan diet live just as long with the same health complications. So that means, whether you're feeding your dog or cat a plant-based diet or one of these meat-based diets, they tend to just have the same lifespan. So it's not something, we shouldn't be believing all these myths and stuff. And I do want to say, I have to be responsible if I'm on here. I'm not a vet or anything, so I'm not like an expert on this. But, to be responsible, I will say that dogs are omnivores and it's much easier. Cats are carnivores. So a plant-based diet is something you do more have to carefully plan and monitor with them. But it can be done. There are thousands of healthy, thriving, vegan, plant-based cats living all over the world. It can be done. And I just want to respond to this argument that it's not natural to feed your dog or cat a plant-based diet or something like that. Sorry, but since when were the animals that non-vegans feed their dogs animals that their dog or cat would naturally hunt? Since when have cats ever deep dived into the ocean and caught tuna? Since when have chihuahuas ever ran into a field and tackled a cow to the ground? It's bullshit. There's no such thing really as cows. Cats and dogs are domesticated animals. There's not really such thing as natural diet for them. They just eat whatever their human companion puts in the bowl for them. If you were to really feed a cat their quote unquote natural diet, it would be what the cat does themselves when they're outside. So it would be a few blades of grass. I've seen cats do that before, and a dead rat. That would be your cat's natural diet. A dead rat and a few blades of grass, not some jellied cow eyeballs in a tin or some jellied fish from the deep in the ocean. Your cat gets scared if they hover over the sink in the bathroom. They can't swim in the sea. And people are saying this is their natural diet. Bullshit.
Right.
So slightly crazy vegan, yeah. So going against this appeal to nature argument, vaccines aren't natural, but we don't want our pets to die, do we? So there's the idea of vaccinating our companion animals to protect them from stuff. So all these things we use in this day and age, none of these things are natural. If people were so caught up on the idea of natural, they wouldn't. Why don't they just take off all their clothes, stop brushing their teeth, give up all technology, and go to the toilet in a hole in the ground, in the garden, or in the woods?
Yeah. And I want to tell everybody about Slightly Crazy Vegan. You guys should follow her. She's a vegan that lives in Australia. She has an interesting YouTube channel where she actually does nude cooking. So she discreetly hides different body parts while she shows you how to cook. And I should actually ask you about what I call it? The fryer, the air fryer. Let me know. Do you have an air fryer? Do you recommend one? If anybody knows, I'm still interested. I want to know if I should buy one or not. I'm kind of intrigued because I've been looking at or hearing about them for several years, and I think I'm ready for like a gadget just to try to suck it out.
I need to mention to you, actually, Miss KADIE, that you are mentioned in a collab video that Slightly Crazy Vegan and I did recently. It might be on an issue that you and I disagree on, actually. The idea
what's
of, I know that you were. Do you have the opinion, maybe I could be wrong, that a lot of the vegan movement is very male-centric and that it promotes men over women a lot? Like in speaker lineups and stuff like that. Do you have that opinion?
This is a really interesting topic. So there was somebody, I think it is something, okay, first of all, I want to say I'm an activist for everybody. I stand up for men's rights and women's rights, and I have vocally spoken out again when women, men bash in our community, whatever. Okay, let's just get the groundwork done for that. And I think I've said it before, when my kids were young and we were out buying pajamas at a store, it said, something said, girls rule, boys drool. And I went and complained to the manager like a good Karen. And I said, what is this bullshit? What is this crap?
Wow.
My boys, do they look like they're drooling? Like this is sexism. If it was the opposite, would it be okay? No. Right. Okay. So let's get that out of the way first, since you asked me. You probably regret asking now. But yeah, I think that I can't help but think, George, that there is still something in our movement that has not equaled out yet. And my evidence of that is when I look at who supports who. For example, when I had more followers than Earthling Ed, or than James Aspie, or than Joey Carbstrong, or than whoever, these are the prominent men that were always speaking out for a long time. When I had more followers than them, not just a few more, but many more on this app, TikTok, where were they to speak out and try to help me out when I was getting attacked? Nowhere. Like I didn't see them making videos that say, hey, you guys are attacking Miss KADIE and that's not okay. Like she's doing this and she's doing that right and she's doing that right. And even when I came tumbling down, I didn't get any, support messages like, hey, that sucks. Because I supported these people for years. They probably don't know it. So maybe it's okay. And I'm not saying that, I'm saying that just a little bit loosely, George. I'm not really blaming them because I'm just saying that I've noticed that. And also recently there was another video out by, as you know, David Rams and Lifting Vegan Logic, by these two, and they were, making fun of vegans. And I said, excuse me, how come you didn't make fun of women? How come you didn't make fun of me? You made fun of like all these categories. Like surely I have something to make fun of. Like
but there were men playing male characters that they were. I don't think they wanted to do the whole thing of putting a girl's wig on and put on this high pitched voice kind of thing, which is the stereotype.
You don't have to exaggerate the whole femaleness. I mean, do I wear makeup? No. Do I have like a high pitched voice? Okay, yeah, maybe I do.
Well, higher pitched than a man's, basically.
Sorry?
Higher pitched than a man's is the point. So
my point is that honestly, I don't think they ever thought of it for 1 second. These are two guys. And they just thought, it just didn't pop into the reality. Now, again, I'm not one of these people who thinks you need to have one black person and one person in a wheelchair and one lesbian and one trans in every single video. I get that, right? But, the reality is I am probably the most hated vegan on the planet. There's a lot to work with. So I just kind of, thought, hey, that's kind of interesting. Now, it might be that maybe they think that women are too fragile and you can't make fun of them.
But so look at all the hate.
Or maybe they just didn't think of it.
But James, Joey, and Ed, who you mentioned there a moment ago, all get hate as well. And in some cases, people don't stand up for them or do videos defending them in the certain cases of hate that they get either. And they didn't with me either when I got pretty much cancelled over the old AV bullshit, where Paul and Asal from AV sided with the woke mob. I only saw one video actually by someone sticking up for me. Most people were too scared to actually say anything, but that's because I think a lot of people wanted to remain pally with AV kind of thing. But I think what you described there about your situation, I think that's just the same for all of us, to be honest. When we come under heat, often not enough people speak out. And I think cults are responsible for that because they do have that stronghold over people. They say, if you dare share a post defending so-and-so, we're coming for your ass next. So they're creating that culture of fear.
So George, let me just put it out there also that, like I said, this is just something that crossed my mind. I'm open to discussion and open to being wrong, but it's not just that. It's also ageism, which people don't talk about. And now I never think of myself as being 56. I can't believe it. Like when I look in the mirror and I see wrinkles, I'm like, who the fuck is that? Because I totally relate to all of you young people. I'm just like, yeah, let's go dancing. Like, yeah, I totally understand. And I socialize with all of you, but the reality is, who else do you know who's 56 years old with gray hair who is ever being talked about?
Gary Yourofsky, he's in his 50s, right? Maybe 40s.
Well, he's not really there anymore, unfortunately. But we both love him, right?
Absolutely.
But so, like a woman who has gray hair, who doesn't wear makeup, like I'm kind of like unique that way. Like I wouldn't mind finding some more of me. If you're out there, hi, come join me. Let's form a club.
Well, a lot of people love Ingrid's getting on a bit now. Ingrid must be in her 50s.
Ingrid Newkirk, yeah.
Yeah. And, people, she's one of the most famous vegans in the world, perhaps the most famous animal rights activist in the world, because she's founded PETA. And when you speak to a non-vegan and you say, oh, I'm an animal rights activist, the first thing they will say is, oh, you're one of them PETA lot. Like PETA is globally famous. Ingrid, she's been on TV ads and she's huge. Like people know of Ingrid Newkirk's name all over the world in PETA.
Yeah, you're right. I would agree with that. Yeah. And people manage to hate her too. It's true.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's just so much hate.
What do you think about PETA? By the way, everyone who's listening, PETA stands for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
Yeah. So I think I guess my opinion on them is nuanced, like it is with any animal rights organization. Yeah, like they've done some good things and some not so good things. I think they've done. Yeah, I agree. Like I think their exposés and stuff that they've done is just incredible. You can go on YouTube and you can type in PETA leather industry, PETA wool industry, and the exposés they've done are absolutely fantastic. And they really helped me make the switch when I went vegan. I was seeing those PETA exposés, and I saw how awful and evil wool is, for example.
Yeah.
So they've done great work with that. But then other things like the dogs thing is really dodgy. And then they seem to
say that. You can't just let that go. People have no idea what you mean.
So they put down loads of dogs. I don't know enough of the ins and outs about the dog thing, but apparently they do like murder like healthy dogs because they don't find a home or something. But they do have all these counter arguments for all this. So this is a lot of people talk about this in the animal rights movement. But I don't think I know enough about that. All I can say is it sounds pretty bad, obviously, first, on first inspection.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that's a fact that they put down all of these supposedly healthy dogs. I don't know what's going on. I don't know the facts. When I've looked into it, all I've seen is that these are people, what I say is that, look, it'd be like me. Here I am in a house and people know I'm an animal rights activist. Do I want everyone to bring me their half-dead dogs that have been run over and their squirrels that they find in the street? Like, you're an animal rights activist. Here, you deal with it. Like, no.
Well, did you know?
Just because you're PETA and, it doesn't mean everyone can just dump all these animals on them and expect them to deal with it, because part of compassion, and I say this as having been a nurse for a long time, is to eliminate pain. And sometimes, although we don't do this with humans, we do eliminate suffering in animals by way of euthanasia. And so I don't know, but I definitely know that to me, what I've seen so far, unless somebody can bring me some hard evidence, I still support PETA because I think they do far more good than bad, like exponentially.
Well, PETA have a statement about it on their website about the dogs thing. I think they admit fully to doing it. But I think it was why Gary left. Because Gary, I don't know if you know, Gary Yourofsky was hired by PETA to do talks.
Okay.
And he fell out with.
Because of that? I didn't know that.
I think so. Yeah, I think Gary said to Ingrid, "Why are you murdering all these dogs?" And they had an argument about it. And Gary also took issue with other stuff like objectification of women and billboards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember. I heard about that.
Yeah, and I think Gary just said, "Look, I'm just going to go my own way and just do the talks myself. I don't want to represent you anymore." And he's, I think Gary on his website, I think he lists PETA on his page that's like people and organizations to avoid because he's like that.
You know what? I've looked at his site, Adapt many times, and I did not see that. So I'm going to go and look deeper because I must have missed that. Thanks for pointing that out. See, that's what I love about these talks. I always learn something. I mean, there's no way that I can go on everybody's website or know everything about the past. The past of our movement is so
this is why
rich.
Gary says, he says, never work with other people in the animal rights movement. Just work with yourself. He says, because if you work with someone else, you'll just fall out with them. There's always some.
I just did this. It's a video that's going up after this. It's already in line. I just had this exact talk. I was walking Bella and talking about that and saying, you know, be an animal rights activist. Just do your own thing, because as much as you think you're a part of a community, you're going to be disagreeing with so many things. But there's so much that you can do on your own.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean don't be interviewed like us. We're working together in a way, right?
Yeah.
But separately, we all have our own stuff.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Miss KADIE, I have to go quite shortly, so let's maybe read one final comment, and then we'll. Oh, I can hear your phone ringing there.
Yeah, that's my daughter calling me. So yeah, that's a sign that we have to go.
That's
for
a
sure.
good. Yes. Yes.
How about we don't read a comment, but we just wrap it up by saying.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to miss a FaceTime with my granddaughter.
Oh no, don't. Yeah. Right. Enjoy your FaceTime with her, and yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and thanks so much for having me. It was a really good discussion.
Thank you so much again, George. And you know, anytime you want to talk about something, feel free to let me know. Everybody follow George. His site is Carnism _Debunked, and he also has a great website. You can go to that. It's .com, is it?
Yes, carnismdebunked.com is my website. Carnism _debunked is my Instagram, and then on YouTube, I'm just Carnism Debunked. So make sure you check out my YouTube channel, Carnism Debunked, guys. Yeah, definitely. And his website, George's website, is really interesting. The more you go in there, you can see that he has all these little videos about how, for example, pigs, they do these tests on pigs, not bad animal testing, but just to see if they can find their way through how they understand mirrors and showing how they are just as intelligent as a small child, and all of these different really interesting videos of animals to see how sentient they are, how intelligent they are. So I really like that section. And of course, for every question that George has on his site, like everything, like, well, what about fur? And what would you do if you were stranded on an island? Like George has every question that anyone could ever think of on his site. So if you're just a new vegan and you're like, how do I answer that? Go check out Carnism Debunked. He's got everything there. All right. Thank you so much. And thanks again, George. We'll see you again next time, folks. Bye-bye. Stay awesome, as they say. Yeah.